Hello and welcome, Angela Meiritz-Reid here. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be creating this card. It's for the Global Design Project this week. It's a sketch challenge. In fact, this challenge is going to last 2 weeks. We're going to have a little break. All the products I've used are available at my online store and will be listed in the description box. Although this little owl, the adorable owls, is a celebration product and it'll be available in January. I've also created a PDF tutorial which is available via my blog, and I'll pop a link to my blog below. So to get started, I've got a crumb cake card base. It's already scored and folded in half. Then I've got 2 layers of white, and the bottom one is just a couple of millimeters wider than the top one. And I've already gone ahead and embossed that top one with the gingham embossing folder. And with these embossing folders, you can choose whichever side you prefer to have to the top. And so I'm just going to pop that on straight away. Just like when I know what I'm doing, just to get everything glued down and sorted as I go. So I'll just pop that onto the card base with some dimensionals. Just get those well spaced out and to give the card some support. Just take those backs off. The dimensionals are great, and of course they come in 2 sizes too, which is very handy. So I'll just pop that on and get that nice and equal from all the sides. And then the next piece I'm going to do is this square here. So I've got some polished pink, and actually I haven't got a Stampin' Up blends. I do have them, but they're all in the wash at the moment. I've got a piece of basic white card base, and I'm just going to pop a bit of scrap. It's very scrappy, this piece. I'll use this side. So what I tend to do too is just get my Stampin' Seal, pop it onto there, and then just pop that on there so it keeps it nice and firmly in place. Then I take my colour from here and dab it onto here, and then pop it onto my card. And I just keep on going up until it's all worn off, and then go back in and get some more, and just start at the bottom and work up. And it does develop over time as you add the colour. Sometimes it can look a little patchy, but it does soak into the cardstock, and as it dries, it has a tendency to even itself out a little bit. Just want to blend it up so it's not so stark at the top. I do tend to go in circular movements just to get that colour on. That. Fairly happy with that colour. So what I'm going to do now is to get that off, just give a little twist. And then I'll just bring in my little mini die cutting machine. And I've got the square, which is from the Stylish Shapes dies. It's a really handy die. So about there, I think. I'll just just run that through. As you can see, my plates are well loved. I have got some new ones there to use. Just haven't got round to swapping them out. Take that off the plate. And then what I want to do with this piece, and actually I'll just bring my scrap back in, is I'm just going to flick some water over it. I don't want too much, but I just want a little bit of interest. So that you can see that developing already. So I'll just I'll set that aside. I might just do one more little flick. So I'll just set that aside to dry. Shouldn't take too long. And what I'm going to do next is stamp and colour in my little owl. So I'm using Memento ink, the Tuxedo Black, because I'm going to be colouring with the blends. So got that good inking up. Stamp that onto a bit of white cardstock. And my colours here. So you can be as particular as you like. You don't have to do variations of colour if you want. I have on here, but if you just want to do solid colour, then by all means go ahead and do that. Especially if it's for a child, they'd be quite happy with this bold colouring. Just use Barley Blue for around the eyes, yeah. And this is the dark pumpkin pie, so I'm just going to do the edge there, then a little bit on the feet, and then just add coloured in here. So this owl set is so cute. I've already fallen in love with it, with all these gorgeous little images. So that's a free item with the celebration that starts, as I said, at the beginning of next month. So it'll be here very quickly. So this is dark polished pink to go with the background. And I'm not worrying about shading on this, just going straight in with the colour. So that's the dark, and now I'm just going to pop the light. And actually what I might do on this one, I'll just go back in with this dark. I'll just do it totally in one colour so we can see the difference. If you want to look at shading and see how I've done it, you can look at some of my other videos, or I will just give a run through of what I've done, so you can, if you want to do that. So this is the light crumb cake. What I usually do is just go around the edges, and then depending on the size of the image, use the other end to fill it in. This just gives you a bit more precise you know, a bit more control, I think, at the end. I'll just quickly, it's not a big area, so I'll just fill it in with this. And to get that shading on there, I just went over and over, sort of in the areas that I wanted it to be shaded, and then used my lifter to take out some colour. But as I say, I don't really think, but this sort of cartoony character look does look just as good in solid colour. I'll just do that on this one just to see the difference. Doesn't take long to get that coloured in. If you don't like colouring, you could always just do either leave it just stamp with a memento, or you could stamp it in gold or silver. That would look quite cool, and not coloured in. So that doesn't look, I think that looks quite cool actually in the solid, just for a change. So I'm just going to fussy cut this, and that doesn't take, this one's a fairly simple image to cut out. But if you don't like fussy cutting, you could stamp it onto a something and die cut it, or punch it out, you know, in an oval shape or a rectangular shape, and just pop it on there. Some of the labels, label dies might work. Just would lose a bit of the square, but you could always do a bigger square, so you've got more, get more, you know, of the surrounding colour. Just go around those little claws. Busy cutting. I'm hoping I'm in shot. And that is that done now. So now it's a matter, oh actually before I do that I might just stamp the sentiment, so that giving that other piece that I was doing a little bit longer to dry. So I've got black cardstock and just my embossing buddy, and Versamark ink, and just this stamp that says "Hoot Hoot, you're so cute." And I'll just pop some basic white embossing powder onto that. And I'll just heat set that, won't be a moment. Looks really good, and it's a cute little sentiment. So I just want to cut that down and cut it apart, so I'm just going to use this trimmer. But once again, you could use a die or a punch. There are lots of choices that would fit something like this. If you're not so fussed on the L's, there are lots of options in the Celebration catalogue. Lots of gorgeous new product, and then in the new mini too. I thought they're super cute, and I think they make such a great kids card. Let's line that up. could, if you do like fussy cutting, you could cut around these too. Right, so next thing I'm going to do is bring that back in, and that looks like it's dried. Every time you do it, you do get something different. And actually what I meant to do was I want to flick this with the Stampin' Blend, so I'm just going to get some scrap paper. So this is just a bit of a trick if you do what I've done and haven't flicked it first. Just going to pop some scrap paper. Just going to tuck it around those edges. Have a pile of scrap paper sitting there, and then I'm just going to get the brush end and then just flick it on here. So as much as or as little as you like, just to give a bit of interest to the background. And then it's a matter of popping it all together. So with this piece here, I'm going to pop that on dimensionals. And then that goes on an angle. Actually the sketch was the other way around, but I flipped it over just to change it up a little bit. So I'll just pop some dimensionals on the back of our owl. Pop that about there. And then the sentiment, just going to use the mini mini dimensionals because they'll work better on that small backing. And then I've even got some, I haven't got any halves. I'll create some halves. I'll just chop those ones in half so they fit onto that piece there. And then I just want to pop those onto that background. Just wanted to fill up a bit of that white space. And that about there. And then lastly what I've done, I've got some rhinestones. I didn't have any coordinating embellishment, so I got my rhinestones, and with the brush end, and this isn't particularly good for your brush end, so you just want to be gentle when you add the colour. Sort of pat it on without getting too vigorous, and it dries with a moment. And then I'll just get my take your pick tool and then just slide that up and pop one up there, one there, and lastly one down there. And if you can add even a bit more colour, so it will keep on drying. You can just add extra coats if you just want to get it a little